Hello, and welcome to Spatial Exploits, a new channel discussing the beautiful game's players, teams, and managers from a tactical perspective. At Euro 2020, the Athletics football writers Tom Warwell and Michael Cox have noticed an interesting trend unfolding. In a recent article, they asked the following question: what do England, Denmark, Italy, the Czech Republic, and Slovakia have all in common? A rudimentary online search suggests not a lot, but at Euro 2020, there's been a common thread linking them. They've all started a right-footed left-back: Jan Borrell of Czech Republic, Joachim Mahler of Denmark, Kieran Trippier of England, Leonardo Spinazzola of Italy, and Tomáš Hubáčan of Slovakia have all started for their national teams on what would be considered as the wrong flank. For those teams, those tactical setups have resulted in interesting overlapping and underlapping runs from those right-footed players during the attacking phase, and the variety in both crossing options and runs cutting in on those players' favored right foot have certainly posed challenges for opposition defenses. Spain, however, are not a side that have taken advantage of this tactical setup, as Luis Enrique has consistently fielded Jordi Alba from Barcelona, or the rising star from Valencia, Jose Gaya, who are both the epitome of a traditional left-footed fullback. Spain's tactical innovation occurs on the right-hand side, where Atletico Madrid's creative engine Marcos Llorente has made the position his own. But Llorente is not your average run-of-the-mill right-back. In this past season at Atletico, Marcos became one of only 4 midfielders in Europe's top 5 leagues to be in double figures for both goals and assists. Those players were Bruno Fernandes of Manchester United, who put in 18 goals and provided 12 assists, Henrik Mkhitaryan of Roma with 13 and 10 accordingly, Marcos Llorente himself with 12 and 11 accordingly, and Thomas Müller of Bayern Munich with 11 and 19 assists accordingly. And yes, you heard correctly, Llorente is classified as a midfielder in world football because for Diego Simeone's Atletico, he's normally fielded as a right-sided central midfielder, right winger, and, at times, a shadow striker. So how is it possible for this offensively minded 26-year-old sensation from Madrid to slot in as the Spanish national team's preferred choice at right back? Let's dive into some tactical discussion to see if we can hone in on the answer. In order for us to properly understand what Marcos Llorente provides to Spain in the right back role, we have to understand how he fits in within Luis Enrique's 4-3-3 formation and what his objectives and tactical instructions are within the grander scheme of what the team is trying to do. Against Sweden in the opening match day of Euro 2020, Spain had this starting 11, with Dani Olmo and Ferran Torres on the wings with Alvaro Morata up top. In midfield you had a partnership of Pedri and Koke, with Rodri in the central defensive midfielder role. In defense you had Pau Torres and Aymeric Laporte, who were just linking up with one another, and due to Aymeric Laporte's recently switched allegiances between France and Spain, that allowed him to slot in immediately as one of Spain's starting center backs. On the left back positioning we had Jordi Alba, and at right back we had Llorente. For goalkeeper we had Unai Simon, who had a fantastic season at Athletic Bilbao, and he was able to do more than enough to unseat Manchester United's David De Gea, who had a pretty miserable campaign towards the latter half of the season for United, and Robert Sanchez of Brighton and Hove Albion is a young 23-year-old goalkeeper who still has a little bit of growing in to do before he can compete even against De Gea or even Simone. If we look at the defensive setup, one of the things that can take place is Marcos Llorente is easily able to switch out so that Cesar Azpilicueta can come in as well to right back. So that is one permutation that we haven't yet seen from Luis Enrique, but he may switch to it, which could then allow Llorente to play where Koke is in this right central midfielder role, or the right winger role where Torres is, or even as a shadow striker if needed. But the shadow striker thing is a little bit more complicated because the 4-3-3 formation would then have to change. So for now, Luis Enrique in the first 2 matches, once against Sweden, another time against Poland recently, both leading to draws for Spain, he's fielded Marcos Llorente in the right back positioning. At center back we have Torres and Laporte. Torres had a fantastic season at Villarreal. He's a left-footed center back playing in the left center back role, which is perfect because that's one of the dynamics of what a team tactically tries to do. Most managers try to do that. If you have a right-footed player here, it makes some of the passing from the goalkeeper to the center back a little bit more arduous. It's far easier, similar to a left back, to receive the pass to your favorite left foot if you're playing on the left wing. Same thing goes for center backs. The complication arises when you have Laporte as a right center back, because Laporte is just like Pau Torres in that he's left-footed. When you have a left-footed center back in this way, it can cause some problems, especially because Spain trying to build from the back, and they pass back and forth to one another as well. So with a left-footed right center back, you do lose some of the aerial maneuverability, but usually Spain stick to ground-based passing through the tiki-taka movements, so there isn't going to be long direct passing from the center backs. And if there was long direct passing, it would be more of Pau Torres starting and initiating those things from his playmaker abilities, which are similar in a sense to how Leonardo Bonucci operates within the Italian national team. At left back, you have Jordi Alba, who makes all sorts of overlapping runs and also at times underlapping runs. But if Alba comes in here, that does allow Dani Olmo or whoever is playing left wing to come in to the middle. Pedri can move up a bit. Then you have some passing formations and triangles between here in this manner, and that allows a lot of the play to switch over to the left half space, so in this manner. And Rodri would be here, Pau Torres moves a little bit off in this manner, and Llorente can move in. A lot of times what also happened in the Sweden match, and a little bit less to the extent in the Poland match, is Koke, instead of moving into this space, he would actually move a little bit here, allowing Llorente to move in from right back, which is more of an inverted right back role. So while Alba on the left wing is marauding up and down the left flank, Llorente is moving into the middle of the park instead of being parked up here. And what that allows him to do is again link up play between these triangles here, between Rodri as well. If it comes back to him, he's under pressure, he can go out wide to Torres, or he could go back to Koke, who can then recycle the ball to Laporte, who can go back to the keeper if needed. But again, he has a partnership with Torres, so Torres can then find long balls deep if needed over the defensive line for Morata to take hold, or even Ferran Torres, who may be cutting in, to take hold. One of the things that Luis Enrique will eventually have to contend with is, what does he do about Rodri? Does he keep him in the starting 11, or does he replace him for Sergio Busquets, who is the Spanish national team's captain? If Busquets is in, not a whole lot changes. He's similarly built in height and stature to Rodri, so defensively he's going to provide as much cover as Rodri is able to do. Additionally, Busquets can slot in between the center defensive partnership, allowing those guys to spread out a little bit more. And if Llorente comes back into the right back positioning, Koke moves here, it does allow more of a width type of structure if Busquets is back there. But yet again, as Rodri has indicated, he can also slot into those roles, so that shouldn't be a problem. Against Sweden, Spain ran into a side that was willing to sit deep in a low block with multiple defensive lines shifted over like this, where if Spain was happy to play tiki-taka in the left half spaces in this manner between these players here, then Sweden was willing to go in and clog up the banks. And what that would do is, because Sweden was very, very compressed in their defensive ability, even if Ferran Torres was all the way here touching the right wings, and Marcos Llorente was here providing width, and let's say Rodri was able to cycle the ball back to Pau Torres, or maybe a direct pass from Torres all the way to Llorente to have a switch over to Torres here, immediately the rest of the defensive team and the rest of the structure for Sweden would start pivoting over, even if the other players moved in to the left half space, to end up creating passing triangles yet again. So in a team with a lot of low block potential, the way Sweden displayed, and that was evident because Spain had 85 to 86% of possession throughout the match, meaning Sweden, with the 15% that they had possession, was able to still generate a shot on goal, and through the help of Isak. So the way to break down a team like Sweden defensively is having the ability to have a lot of fast passing between the different players. And one of the things that actually took place is, in the Sweden match, when Koke came out and Thiago went into the match, he immediately started pressing the defense from Sweden to win the ball back, but he drastically sped up the possession of Spain so that there were quicker triangles being formed and there were faster passes being shuttled throughout the rest of the team. So a player of Thiago's nature immediately improved the cadence of the possession play, so while Spain had the 85% possession, if they're lackadaisically passing it back and forth, it's not really going to amount to much because the defensive structure of a team like Sweden isn't going to break loose like that, and they're going to be very, very compact, and Spain isn't likely to have a lot of passes over the top. And so in a team of this structure, it becomes completely necessary that if Spain want to create more and more chances on goal, one, they have to finish them when they do generate them. However, it's the passing of a Thiago where he can generate as a conductor the slowing and the speeding up of the passing cadence. Another player that was just as instrumental in that type of thinking is Pedri from Barcelona, where the attacking midfielder was able to generate different passing triangles between Dani Olmo, Jordi Alba, even Rodri, Thiago, but also he would drop back here and then immediately suck a defender in, and then through his presence with the ball, able to dribble around him to go here, and then immediately offset the pass over to Olmo, who can then provide certain outlets for a cutting Morata, who can go to goal, and hopefully put one in to give Spain anything more than a 0-0 draw against Sweden, which is exactly where they amounted to. So while Spain did create some chances, there was a lot to be left on the plate when it came against Sweden, and so when they moved over to the Poland match, the same kind of tactical setup went into the foray, except Ferran Torres came out and Gerard Moreno of Villarreal also came into the match. Similarly, with Torres, while he stuck more to the right-hand wing and rarely appeared in the left-hand side of play, Moreno was more than willing to go in, cutting in this way, as well as he won a penalty by, in this area, trying to maneuver a defender who ended up stepping up on his ankle and generating a penalty chance for Moreno in Spain. Although Moreno didn't convert it, so you're right back down to a draw as the final result against Poland. Also against Poland, one of the things that Marcos Llorente did really well is because Moreno was cutting more inside than Ferran Torres, Llorente was actually parked wide here, allowing the likes of Rodri to come into these areas if needed, and Koke was ultimately able to find more and more passing lanes by being further along the pitch and closer to Morata, which allowed him to make more and more passing triangles. So we saw more of an offensive performance from Koke against Poland, but against Sweden, Koke would have to revert back to these roles because Llorente was so far up the pitch, or he would have to tuck in like this so that Llorente could move into the middle of the pitch. We've already highlighted Thiago's impact to the game in terms of speeding up the passing and possession play of Spain to really create those threaded passes that can split open even a tightly compact defense the way Sweden and Poland were lined up. But another impact substitution was one of Fabian Ruiz, who usually plays for Napoli in the right center midfield role, but within Spain, he encompasses a similar role. However, he's way more free-flowing, so one of the things that Fabian did is, as tall as he is, he's able to take a really good dribble with the ball into different areas of the park. So when he came into the match, one of the few things that would happen is he would carry the ball into deeper and deeper lines, and he would be able to progressively play through the defensive lines. And when he's press resistant in this way, it allows him to then carry the ball over into the midfield like this, pass it off to Llorente, who can then traverse himself on the right wings and carry the ball with him all the way in here, and then allowing Moreno to come in, Morata to come in, even Dani Olmo to come in, and that allows a crossing here into Morata or even to Moreno, and then once you're in the box in that way, even a team of Sweden's caliber who can sit deep isn't able to really manipulate too much. The other attribute that Spain provided is that because they hold on to the ball for so long, they only have to defend without the ball for a tiny fraction of the ball. And what that really amounts to is if Sweden, for example, steal the ball here from Moreno and then they immediately fan out and launch a counterattack through Alexander Isak, then Spain is actually able to get back on time and as quick as they can, but they don't have the fastest players in midfield. So one of the things that Llorente does consistently is even if he's caught somewhere in these positions, he's able to use his speed and creative engine to come back in and help out Laporte and Torres as much as possible, so that a shot on goal for Unai Simeone is not something that's too dangerous for him to take care of. So this is one of the ways that Spain defensively can be broken down, is because they play such a high line defensively, they are likely to get caught behind, especially if a counterattack starts from deep in the opposition's half and a direct pass over the top is what's needed to go and find Isak, who then can use his pace and carry the ball all the way through and have a clear shot on goal. The other area for Spain that's a relative weakness is because they don't defend very well on set pieces, they are likely to get pushed around and shoved around. And one of those examples was Robert Lewandowski's goal, where against Laporte, he basically shoved him. And as Laporte was falling down, Lewandowski was able to get a very clean head on to the ball and scored Poland's first goal to give Poland the draw against Spain and keep their hopes alive for the remaining portions of Euro 2020. As mentioned, Spain has drawn the first two matches of the Euro 2020 group stages. Against Sweden, they had a 0-0 draw. Against Poland, they had a 1-1 draw. And with only 2 points heading into the match against Slovakia to close out the group stages, Spain is likely to employ quite a few lineup changes. Enrique has even hinted at such a possibility. The first one that we know of is Rodri will probably be taken out to have Sergio Busquets come in, as long as he's fully fit from the COVID scare. If Busquets comes in, dynamically, as I mentioned, it doesn't quite change the team all that much, though Busquets does have quite a bit of playmaking ability, so he may be able to find those threaded passes to create a few more chances on goal than Rodri would have from those same deep positions. There's a chance that Koke gets taken out, and that would allow Llorente to move into his role and properly have Cesar Azpilicueta as the team's right back, allowing Jordi Alba to continue pressing up on the left flank while Azpilicueta provides that adequate defensive cover. Because as we saw, a lot of the times when Azpilicueta was not in the matches and Llorente was fielded at right back, you'd have Koke come in here, and then basically they would just alternate the spots, where Koke would drop in like this, and so Llorente could go here, allowing the wide winger on the right flank to go inside to help out Morata and create these overloads in the left half space. If Koke is taken out, that again allows Llorente to come in, allows Azpilicueta to come in on the right back side, create a 3-man high line that they can employ while in possession of the ball. Up top, Alvaro Morata has been very, very unremarkable, and he scuffed quite a few chances in front of goal, including Gerard Moreno's missed penalty kick where it fell right to Alvaro Morata's favored right foot and he blasted it over the net. And that's just not the type of quality you want to see at these levels, especially heading into that third group stage match where Spain is going to have to do quite a bit to make sure they're winning, but not just winning, but winning on goal difference, just to put as many goals on the board as possible to ensure a safe passage through to the knockout stages. So if Alvaro Morata is taken off, they have the ready-made replacement in Gerard Moreno, who has put up 30 goals in all competitions for Villarreal this past season. At left wing, Dani Olmo has been okay, but not perfect, so you would maybe want to take him off to put in maybe Mikel Oyarzabal. And that at right winger brings up a very important question. Do you go with Ferran Torres, or do you go with Adama Traore? And Traore actually has had a very great season 2 years ago, but last season with Wolves, he didn't really perform up to expectations. He wasn't scoring anymore, he wasn't even assisting anymore, so really when you're picking up Adama Traore, if you're Luis Enrique, you're saying we need to inject a lot of pace into the proceedings and we need a lot of physicality up front. So one of the ways you can do it is having Moreno up top with Oyarzabal to the left-hand side, and that allows the left-hand flank to still dominate the match if needed, along with Moreno linking up play. But the second the ball gets switched over to the right-hand flank, you would have Adama providing a lot of width and Llorente tucking in like this. So if the ball switches over from the left-hand flank into Busquets, he can recycle it to Laporte or Torres. From there, it goes to Azpilicueta, goes into Llorente, or there's a more direct pass to Adama. With Llorente, with his passing ability and creative engine, he can also break through any of the low blocks that Llorente is going to have to face against Slovakia as well, because Slovakia, just like the other two teams, Poland and Sweden, are probably going to sit really, really low and sit very compressed. So Llorente has the ability to play through those defensive lines with his dribbling as well as his passing. So he can operate inside like this through his dribbling and then unleash shots on goals. Or he can play the ball out wide, tuck in here, and use his 6-foot frame to also find the goal through headers or any other creative maneuvering within the box. What all of this indicates is that Marcos Llorente may not have been fielded in the right position for Spain to begin with, and the 2 draws are not necessarily his fault, but the fact that he's been in this right back role with the nominal player in midfield having to tuck in on his behalf, so Koke, who would normally be here taking up these spaces, is now having to tuck in here so Llorente can be further out so that the winger can tuck in. So rather than doing that dynamic yet again for the third match, what Enrique can do is maybe keep Koke, put in Adama or even Ferran Torres. He can, at his disposal, take out Koke, put in Fabian Ruiz, who's been showing some flashes of potential. He can also take out Fabian and put in Thiago Alcantara, and that can work out pretty well too. But the idea is you don't want Llorente to be a right back. I don't think that is the right move for Spain moving forward because of the quality that he brings as a creative hub for Atletico Madrid. So when you have a proper right back where Cesar Azpilicueta can come in, you can then remove Ferran Torres, even put out Llorente on the right wing, where he's basically standing on the touchline, and that allows the left half space to do their thing. If that fails, they can quickly switch the ball through Thiago over to Llorente, get the rest of the defense moving in this direction, and the Spanish national team moving in this direction as well, and then that allows Llorente to dribble in, as he's able to do, and hopefully within some possibilities allow more chances to be created. So the idea for Luis Enrique in Spain is to keep the same formation. That clearly works, and Spain has been able to retain possession for very, very long periods of the matches that they have played up to this point. The problem is they need to put Marcos Llorente not all the way back, but all the way up to the front. And the closer he is to the front, the more he can become that 12-goal, 11-assist type of midfielder that was one of the top in Europe in this previous season.